Okay, this is the unit for day 3 notes, long division and synthetic division. Before I start the notes, I want to go over one of the problems on the warm-up, which is a review of just regular long division that we learned in elementary school. So the steps for long division are divide, multiply, subtract, and then bring down. So our first step, if this is my problem, I divide. 5 goes into 6 one time. Now multiply. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1, and then bring down. Bring down that 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times. Multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract. 10 minus 10 is 0. Bring down. Divide. 5 goes into 0, 0. Multiply. 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. And bring down. Divide. 5 goes into 3, 0. Multiply. 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract. 3 minus 0 is 0. And there's nothing else to bring down. That's my remainder. So my answer is 1200 with a remainder of 3. That means 5 goes into 6003 1,200 times, but there's 3 left over. All right, so now to do it with polynomials, excuse me, divide x squared plus 7x minus 5 by x minus 2. So first we got to set up our problem. And when we do polynomials, when you put the polynomial inside, you need to make sure that it covers all of the terms. So for example, x squared, x, and a constant. They go in order. My highest one is x squared. There is also an x term and a constant. And I'll show you what I mean on the next one, which doesn't have all these. But there is an extra step here. You need to make sure you have all of those terms. So now I divide. X goes into x squared, x times. Multiply. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Now you need to subtract. That means your signs are changing on both things. That becomes a minus, that becomes a plus. So now I've got x squared minus x squared is 0. 7x plus 2x is 9x. And now bring down. So this minus 5 gets brought down. So then we go back to the divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. We keep repeating those 4 steps. Divide. X goes into 9x, positive 9 times. Multiply. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. Subtract means both signs need to switch. 9x minus 9x is 0. Negative 5 plus 18 is 13. And that is my remainder. So it's plus 13 over x minus 2. Let's try another one. So I've got y squared minus y plus 1. Y to the 4th. Now this is what I said. We need to make sure that you have every exponent. If my highest is 4, I need to have a y to the 4th, a y to the 3rd, a y squared, a y, and a constant. There is no y cubed up here, but I still need it. So I'm going to write plus 0 y cubed. Then I have y squared, y to the 1, and my constant. All right, so my first step is divide. Y squared into y to the 4th goes y squared times. Second step, multiply. Y squared minus, or y squared times y squared is y to the 4th. Y squared minus y is minus y cubed, and y squared plus 1 is plus y squared. Subtract means all the signs need to change. This becomes a minus, this becomes a plus, and this becomes a minus. Y to the 4th minus y to the 4th is 0. 0 plus y to the 3rd is y to the 3rd. 2y squared minus y squared is y squared. Now we bring down the next term. which is minus y. Back to my same steps. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Divide, y squared into y cubed goes y. Multiply. Y times y squared is y cubed. Y times negative y is negative y squared. Y times 1 is y. Subtract means all the signs have to switch. Notice I'm switching 3 signs. Now subtract. Y cubed minus y cubed is 0. Y squared plus y squared is 2y squared. Negative y minus y is minus 2y. And then we bring down the next term, which is 5. Now we're back to it again. Divide. Y squared into 2y squared is plus 2. Multiply. 2 times y squared is 2y squared. 2 times negative y is negative 2y. 2 times 1 is 2. Subtract means you're switching all the signs. 2y squared minus 2. Negative 2y plus 2y is 0. 5 minus 2 is 3, and that is my remainder. So plus 3 over this part here, y squared minus y plus 1, and that's my answer. My answer is y squared plus y plus 2 plus 3 over y squared minus y plus 1. So that's how to do it with long division. Now we're going to do it a shorter way called synthetic division. So in synthetic division, what we're going to do is deal with the coefficients. So if you look, the coefficient of x to the 4th is 1. That goes here. The coefficient of 2x cubed, which is 2, goes here. Coefficient of x squared is negative 10. That goes here. There is no x term. Remember we said there has to be all of them. So we would actually have a plus 0x here. And then I can say, oh, my coefficient of x is 0. That goes here. And then my last one is my constant, negative 20, and that goes here. So that's that first row. It's all the coefficients. And then this 3 right here comes from this. If I solve it for 0, I would get 3. X minus 3 equals 0 gives me x equals 3. That's where the 3 comes from. So then it's kind of the same method. It's a lot quicker, takes a lot less space. You bring down the 1 before you even start. Then you multiply. 1 times 3, that gives you 3. You add them together, it gives you 5. 5 times, add them together, gives you 5. 5 times 3 gives you 15. Add them together, gives you 15. 15 times 3 gives you 45. Add them together, gives you 25. So these are now coefficients. Again, you have to reduce this one by 1. So if I start with x to the 4th, this first coefficient is going to be an x to the 3rd coefficient. So that's the coefficient of x to the 3rd. That's x squared, x, constant, and remainder. And that's how it gets written down here. So let's do one together. Divide x cubed plus 2x squared minus 6x minus 9 by x minus 2. So first of all, check, make sure you have all your terms. If my highest is x to the 3rd, there needs to be x squared, x, and a constant, and there are. So all my coefficients, 1, 2, negative 6, negative 9 get written there. If I solve x minus 2 for x, when I set it equal to 0, I get 2. That goes there. The first coefficient automatically comes down. Then you start multiplying. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Negative 6 plus 8 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 9 and 4 is negative 5. Reduce your exponent by 1. So if I start with x to the 3rd, this coefficient is for x squared. So x squared plus 4x plus 2, and there's my remainder, minus 5 over x minus 2. Again, this is a video. You can go back and watch it again. You can pause it. You can stop. So if I'm going too fast, go back and do it again. All right, second problem. Coefficients. Make sure you have them all. 3, 2, 1, 0. Yes. So write them down. 1, -1, -2, and 8. If I solve this, x plus 2 equals 0, solve it for x, I get -2. That goes here. Bring down the first coefficient, which is 1, and then start multiplying. -2 times 1 is -2. Add these two together, you get -3. -3 times -2 is 6. Add these together, you get 4. 4 times -2 is -8. Add those together, you get a remainder of 0. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's write the answer down. We started with x to the third. That means my answer has to start with x squared. And these are the coefficients. X squared minus 3x plus 4, and there is no remainder. What that means is in this box here, if the remainder is 0, you have just found a 0, a root, a solution, an x-intercept. Remember what those mean? You basically just found a factor. And then you can use your answer from synthetic division to continue factoring. So that means this is a factor. X plus 2 is a factor. -2 is a root, or you can call it a 0, an x-intercept, a solution. So this is my factor, because my factor has the x. This is a solution. And that's because the remainder was 0. All right, so then alternatively, we can find out is something a 0 by using synthetic division, basically. Synthetic substitution. Because if it is a 0, my remainder is 0. So when I decide if this is a 0, I set it up, I put the 2 on the outside, and I make sure I have everything. So 3, 2, 1, 0. Yes. So I write my coefficients. The first coefficient comes down, and then I multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. -2 and 2 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. -9 and 0 is -9. -9 and -2 is -18. 18 and -18 is 0. So yes, x equals 2 is a solution, or a 0, or a root, or an x-intercept. And that's because the remainder is 0. All right, so now, if it's a 0, find the other zeros. So what I have left here, I started with x cubed. That means my answer has to go down 1. So that's x squared. I don't have any x's, and I have -9. This is difference of squares. X plus 3, x minus 3. When I set each one of these equal to 0 and solve, I get x equals -3 and x equals 3. So all the solutions to this, all the zeros, are -3, 3, and 2. That means it crosses the x-axis in 3 spots, touches in 3 spots. It crosses and touches, or touches at -3, 3, and 2. All right, so then what is the factored form? Well, we know to go from solutions to factors, you add an x and switch the sign. So on this one, if I add an x and switch the sign, I get x plus 3. That one, add an x, switch the sign, x minus 3. Add an x, switch the sign, x minus 2. So my function, the factored form, is x plus 3, x minus 3, x minus 2. All right, last one for the notes. Factor this polynomial given that f of -4 equals 0. Okay, so that means that this is a solution. When they say it in this way, that means when x is -4, y is 0. That's what it means to be a solution. That's what it means to be an x-intercept. So that goes out here, and then let's make sure we start with x to the third, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, I'm not missing any, so we write our coefficients. The first coefficient comes down, and then we start multiplying. 3 times -4 is -12. Add those together, you get 1. 1 times -4 is -4. Add those together, -2. -2 times -4 is 8. You get 0. All right, so we knew we were going to get 0 because we knew that this was a factor. Now we have to keep going. I started with x to the third. That means that this is the coefficient of an x squared term. This is x, and this is our constant. So to factor this, I have a quadratic where a is not 1. When I multiply AC together, I get 3 times -2, which is -6, and b is 1. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be -6 and add up to be 1. Those numbers are 3 and -2. So I'm going to break this down, that middle term, into 3x minus 2x instead of x. We wrote it as 3x minus 2x because we're going to do grouping. And this is equivalent. X is the same thing as 3x minus 2x. So my greatest common factor for these first two is 3x. That leaves me with x plus 1. My greatest common factor for these two is -2. It also leaves me with x plus 1. Remember, at this point, you should make sure that the thing in the parentheses are the same, because that means you did it right. That's one of your factors, and the other factors are your GCFs, the 3x and the -2. Now we set these equal to 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Oh, no, it just wants us to factor. It didn't say solve. It said factor. So that's it. We don't actually have to solve them. We just need to say f of x equals x plus 1, that's one factor, 3x minus 2, that's the other factor, and my last factor is from this. So we know we need to add an x and switch the sign. And if I needed to solve these, I would set each one equal to 0 and solve, and then I would have my solutions. But it didn't ask me for that, it just said to factor it. Again, so that is the notes. So if you were not in class and you're just watching this on the computer, go back, watch it again if you need to, go back, pause it, try different parts again. Or if you were here and just needed a review, it's also here for you.